Right. Steve Lee chaired, voted that I should give a talk. So the purpose of this breakout was really to discuss what funding opportunities there are this year, and how we should be trying to better support software developers in helping other research groups getting involved in projects, etc., etc. It was an interesting discussion. I'm never sure whether to do the conclusions at this point or not, but we'll try. There we go. So the overall funding situation for all science, in fact, is difficult in the current austerity climate. One thing we did discuss, though, was that if we really want to embed e-research and e-science into scientific research projects in the UK, then it'd be good if the Research Council took that on board in terms of when they set up their panels, so that people can have a view and make sure that people are thinking about software in particular when they're doing reviewing proposals. One thing that I'll come to in the latter two slides is e-science teams should build long-term relationships with research groups and work on ways where they can repeatedly engage in small chunks with those research groups. So I'll come to that in a bit more detail in a second. And then we had a long discussion about the importance of registering for information on funding and going to meetings. This is maybe not the best example because most of us are from the software development community here, but meetings where we can meet the end users of software, the scientists or the companies or whatever, and the importance of doing that. So we came up with three sort of further work things, which were, I think this first one came up right at the end, but I do think it's a good idea. It's something that the SSI could do, is, if you like, to provide a template or a process by which people can understand how you would write 6 months of a software developer into a project proposal that's going to have a duration of 3 or 4 years. So it's the classic research group doing a bit of biology or whatever. They know they're going to need some software help doing it. How do they actually write that into a bid in a simple and easy to understand way that everybody's happy with? I think that would be really good if the SSI could do that. SSI was asked to continue advertising funding opportunities. And then I've already said the thing about the e-research representatives on panels. So some of that in a little bit more detail. What we discussed is clearly a difficult funding position. Currently, the Research Council is still sorting out their budgets going forward. Framework 7, funding from the Commission's drawing to a close. There's going to be one big call left, I think, in the ICT area, software area. But I'm going to think more positively. Certainly, I've noticed the industry funding is on the up at the moment. We've brought industry funding in the last year that we've not been able to for certainly 2008, 2009, which is dreadful for that. We discussed different funding sources for all of us, the Research Councils, TSB, so locks in the group, European Commission, charities. People talked about applying to the Wellcome Trust or the Leverhulme, industry, and of course not forgetting JISC. We discussed a lot about how we as the software development community need to get involved in the bids being put forward by the end user communities, and Meredith wants to about that. And then we had sort of a discussion, which is one of the most difficult things, which is scale. If you're a group that's got 5 or 6 or 10 people in it, it's really hard to respond to requests for 3 months of an RA because you're taking the risk of having that RA employed and maybe not always being able to cover that RA's salary. It's the classic thing. I was talking a bit about EPCC and how we're lucky because we're 70 people, so you can amortise that over the year and deal with peaks and troughs and things. We had a little discussion about TSB feasibility studies for SMEs. That was quite specific. And we also discussed working on commercial projects, the pros and the cons. The pros are you get income and you get interesting work to do. The con is that you might not get to keep your intellectual property. It can be extremely specific what you're being asked to do, for instance. We discussed about pathways to impact, and the comment there was basically that people need help in being much clearer about the long-term sustainability of, say, the software in their impact statements, and there's various discussion about that. We discussed collaboration, knowledge transfer, both with other academic groups, but also with companies, and also the importance, this is my final point, of registering on the funding body websites, the TSB's Connect website, all the various places to see what opportunities are coming up. But if you're expecting a list of excellent, right, we need to bid for this in March and this in June, I'm sorry we didn't have that.